Hi everyone, welcome to yet another edition of Platform and Possibilities, a program where we use the opportunity to present business and service providers who reside in the diaspora, St. Kitts Nevis diaspora, and beyond. Today I am fortunate to have the beautiful and quite eloquent Miss Kimarah Isaac to speak with us a bit on who Kimarah is as a service provider in the U.S. She currently serves or works with the Monroe College institution in the Bronx, New York. New Rochelle. She's between both the New Rochelle and Bronx campuses, and Kimarah, is your resume is so vast, and so instead of me reading it or saying what you do, I know that you were trained as hospitality in hospitality management, and that you also have a master's degree in business, and that you've used that expertise in the not just in the hospitality field but also in human resources, recently earning that certificate or certification in human resource management. So we really are pleased that you've taken the time to have this conversation with us, where we are involved in the business of inspiring and informing others and hopefully empowering them. So what can I say? Welcome, Kimarah Isaac, to having this conversation on Platform and Possibilities. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you for all those kind words. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So if you want me to start by telling the audience a little bit about myself, I will start by stating that I am obviously from St. Kitts and Nevis, Old Road particularly. I've lived in the Bird Rock area for a little while. I've lived in the Camps area for a little while. And essentially, before I ventured into higher education, I always knew that I wanted to work with people. I always spent a lot of time going to hotels and so forth with my mom as I was growing up. And during the summer, I would always sell mangoes. So if anyone know my mom, they would probably know all of my siblings, because every single summer we would be on the street, at market, of the village at where we call the old hospital road in Boyd's. You think about it, even as far as St. Paul's, because I have some family there, just selling mangoes and raising money to get school supplies for the new upcoming year. And I think that interaction with people every summer over the years, going to the hotels with my mom as well, has really made me a people's person. And eventually I said that I wanted to, go into hospitality because I love to please people. I'm a people pleaser. I've always said that I think I was born to serve. So if that means that I'm going to be able to make others happy, I think that's who I am as a person. So while I was in school, I got some awards. I graduated at the top of my class. In primary school, I was the recipient of the Warren Tyson Memorial Scholarship from TDC, and I was one of their key students. Even now, when I go home and visit, I always do motivational talk to the students, and I offer any type of educational services that I can to their students, because that program helped me a lot financially, socially, and I think the folks around the TDC areas, working with directors and the staff and even customers, it made me the person that I am today. So with that experience, graduating at the top of my class in high school, the Birchells High School, I was given additional scholarships. I went on to the local college where I completed the humanities degree. I did 2 years of law, the Caribbean studies, and everything that some of the students there are doing now. So I have a very good understanding of what the students that I'm helping goes through and what they would have experienced. These are some of the things that I think makes me a lot different than many other international college advisors. The passion that I developed when I was younger, the fact that I have the experience in the education background that some of these folks have, putting all of that together makes me who I am today. So eventually, I went off to study. I decided to choose Monroe College in New York because it's in New York. I didn't want to go to St. Thomas or Texas or even the UK, even though I had applied and got scholarship opportunities to those areas. I was really looking at that dream of being in New
Right.
York.
Right.
So I actually came, I studied hospitality management with a minor in marketing for my undergraduate degree. In the US, we have the opportunity to work for a year. I did that. I worked in the alumni
Is this
office.
after graduation that you?
Yes.
Okay.
During my studies, I work in the residence life office
Right.
and the alumni associations with the directors there. Because the experience that I came in with from TDC for 5 years, it made me more ready to work along managers and directors rather than having an entry position.
Understood.
Upon graduating, though, for the undergraduate degree, I landed a more senior role where I dealt with all the housing placements, mailing, and so forth. After that, after a year of doing that, I said, you know what, I'm going to go and get my master's degree. I decided to do the MBA with a concentration in finance. Eventually, after that, I was asked to work with the president's office. And since then, that is what I've been doing. So when I work with the president's office, because of the abilities and skills that I have, because of my personality and my calm nature, it's one of those situations where I find myself doing different roles, working with different people at different times. And it was there that the president, back then the vice president, asked me to assist students from St. Kitts and Nevis with admissions to the college. Within about a month or so of doing the job, I was able to get, I would say, about 3 students to come to New York, and they were very impressed. So they eventually asked me to take over the entire St. Kitts market. Then they eventually added a few other Caribbean islands, such as Bahamas, St. Martin. Eventually, I started doing Dominica, Antigua. You think about the Caribbean island, I have possibly helped students there
From
in
every
those.
island. What's the selling point that you typically use to encourage people to come to Monroe?
I Well, I can tell you this. I really don't use a selling point. I think by the time that I got in to outreach for Monroe College was already well known because one of their things was they had always been going to these countries, visiting schools, doing presentations. But I think I will use the words that students say to me and parents say to me. They said, listen, I feel good sending my child away to New York because you're there. I would not have think about Monroe College if it wasn't for you. And then students would say, you made the process so clear, so simple, even to the point where you're coaching me and giving me tips as to how to go about my visa interview, making sure that I have my folder together. These are some of the nurturing aspects that I bring to my job that I know makes me different from others. So I think these are some of the things that make people want to come because they feel safe. And as many students would tell you, even after they enroll, they would be always in my office. They're always calling me. They're always finding me on social media. And it has become one of those things where the demand is so much, it's hard for one person to keep up. So I find myself feeling sometimes disappointed that I'm not able to get back to people as quickly as I would like, because that speaks about the way I work and stuff like that. So
Right.
that is something that I would say I am working on this year to make sure I am able to get back to my response time to meet the demand that I have. But I'm only one person,
Right.
so
Right.
I'm going to take it one day at a time.
Right. This is such an it seems like such an overwhelming responsibility. Are you in a position to maybe have a student shadow you, or is the school in a position to do that if the demands are so high?
Yes, so there has been conversations about me having someone assist me. The only thing is that with that assistance, I am going to be given additional responsibilities. I actually have those additional responsibilities as well. So right now, instead of just focusing on international students, I have now started focusing on students who are in the Bronx. So for the first time, I am actually going out to all of these high schools in the US and meeting with their principals and their guidance counselors and so forth. So I think what it is that I have to get my head around that new role and that new project before I can actually see where I need the help. And then as I start looking for the help, I have to find the right person because I do not want the situation where I get someone and it takes away from what I want to bring. I was saying that when it comes to me getting the help I need, I think I'm being a little bit selfish on the part where I want to make sure that the students are getting the best. So I'm taking my time in selecting the person who is going to assist me because I know for a fact that St. Kitts is a small country, and whatever background the person is coming with, or even if I get someone from the US, I have to make sure that they're able to meet the criteria and the standards, and they have the same work ethic. I want to make sure that when someone works with me, they love it as much as I do, which is probably impossible, but I would settle for at least half of the charismatic nature that I have, the nurturing nature that I have. So as I manage these different projects that I've been given, and I tell you, honestly, Miss Phipps, these projects, they come out of nowhere and I'm having to just adapt really quickly. This is one of the most fast-paced situation that I have encountered. And all of this is as a result of the pandemic because we had to make a lot of changes and make a lot of adjustments to accommodate the needs of students, the needs of the school, and to make sure that things continue to go.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about the pandemic because I do know that there are quite a few students who attend Monroe, of course, from St. Kitts and Nevis, from the Caribbean as a whole, and I know that many had some challenges during COVID, and it's interesting to know that you're still in a position to entice people to come to the school. So even if there may have been some feelings of maybe being somewhat shortchanged during COVID because students didn't get the treatment they envision getting during a crisis. The fact that students are still coming is a plus. On the other hand, it'll be interesting to hear you talk about how Monroe has assisted students who suffered during COVID and how Monroe is positioning itself to be available to support students in the future, considering we don't know where the next crisis will come from, etc. So talk a little bit about how Monroe has really assisted students during COVID and their plans for the future.
Okay. So I would definitely say, and I was speaking to one of my colleagues in who works with students in the UK particularly, and she mentioned that when we were having the conversation, she mentioned that, her institutions that she works with in the UK do not do as much as we do at Monroe. So two of the things that I would definitely say clearly that Monroe College has went above and beyond for students on a whole. And even though international students are sometimes left behind, we did our part at Monroe to make sure that our international students were not left behind. So, for instance, as you may know, some institutions would have closed down the campus altogether, where they suspended in-person classes. At Monroe, we did the same thing. Where other institutions were asking students to leave the dorms and, just pack up their stuff and return home to exit the dorm to prevent the spread, we instead encouraged, or we basically made accommodations for our students to stay in place if they wanted to stay in place, meaning to stay in their dorms. They had the choice, of course, if they wanted to return home or go to a family member, but a lot of the students stayed. Some of the students returned home. I think that was one of the things that we did differently. We gave them the choice and we put the resources and the staff in place and followed all the proper protocols to make sure that they were safe within their dorms. The second thing that I think that we did differently, where other institutions may have been given assistance, COVID relief, financial assistance to students who are US citizens, we would have extended those funds to international students. So of course, if you are not registered for the semester, you won't get any funds. But if you're an active student, you're registered, you're taking classes, you have a tuition bill for that semester, you were able to get additional funds. Even if you were getting scholarships, these were additional funds on top of that. So I know there has been some question about, well, I didn't get any funds and, she got some. And I turn and I would say, well, Miss Phipps, were you registered for this semester? Oh, no, I had graduated, but I said, well, this is for students who are actively enrolled, students who have bills that needs to complete their degrees. And, so I understand when it comes to money, it's always, a question, but I can definitely tell you that we did our part to not exclude our international students, just making sure that if they were enrolled and they needed the assistance, they can get it. But remember, all of these aid, you would have had to fill out a form and get it, and students got enough notification as to how to go about filling out the form and knowing who to contact to ask for those assistance, because I myself received some of those calls and I assisted students when it comes to the financing and the finance team. If I didn't hear from them, then I did not reach out, because of course everyone received communications from the teams.
Right, and it sounds like it's a case of stay on the radar. If you're not on the radar, it makes it difficult to find you.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that you talk about the need for money, the need for assistance. Well, while you're finishing up, want to become this graduate, and then for those who are done, the optional practical training, OPT, where do you feel the information needs to be strengthened for students to be mindful? Because I know you talk about the fact that one of the strengths you have and the college institution has is the ability to share information with students so that it can be a seamless process and they can know what opportunities there are, while at Monroe and postgraduate. What are your thoughts on how informed students are on that initiative, the optional practical training that helps them after they graduate?
I would think that they're pretty informed, and I would also think that sometimes they may need to ask additional questions to get additional information in some cases. The reason why I would say they're very informed is because I myself, one of the beauties of coming to the US to study, because I assist students with going to St. Lucia and also doing their degrees online. But one of the beautiful things about studying in the US is that you have the opportunity to practice and train. That is what it is, optional practical training. when you're finished with your studies here in the US. That is something that all students, I tell all of my students, even at the time before they're even accepted to the college, before they even plan to go for a visa, before they even arrive here. During the orientation, when they first arrive on campus, not only do they have to check in with their visas and give us copies and so forth, but they have to attend an orientation. And there's a whole presentation, there's a whole slide on the optional practical training. More so, closer to the end of their studies, they are encouraged to attend a final presentation where students who are graduating, international students, that is, who are graduating, can attend an optional practical training workshop. If they attend, I don't know, but I do know that all students who are graduating, like a semester before, they're given that information. So let's say you are enrolled and your last semester would be the January through April semester. Somewhere in between that semester, you're given information as early as January about that workshop. We have an entire office that is called International Student Services, where when students are traveling, they have to get their paperwork signed for immigration when they re-enter. These are the folks who they will be asking those questions. Naturally, these are the folks who also register them each semester for their next set of classes. So when students are interested to learn more about the optional practical training, they have tons of information. They have a lot of people that they can ask. Now, I know for a fact that many of the students know about it, and I know for a fact that a lot of students don't take advantage of it only because they do not spend the time or they don't spend the energy to seek employment. Remember, as an international student, you only have a year to work in the US. Many companies will be happy to hire you for that year. But some companies may say, no, we want someone who can stay on after a year. But you have to do your part as a student to go to the job fairs that we have every semester where hundreds of employers are. You know, you don't miss all the job fairs every semester and then go to that one job fair at the end of when you're graduating and think that you're going to capture and get information from all these employers, because it's a lot of employers that come on campus that looks for students for internship, full-time and part-time, and OPT positions. So I think when it comes to that, students have to be more proactive in trying to make sure they start 2 semesters out by identifying some of those companies that will be willing to take them upon graduation for that OPT year.
That's a good point. Not to defend not to defend the students who don't take advantage of programs such as, you know, recruiters coming on campus and companies coming. Not to defend those students who may not be as aggressive in pursuing those opportunities, but are the students actually seeing the success of students who graduate before them benefit from OPT programs?
Well, I think they see it, but I think that they are short-sighted in a way, because I think that many of my students, not just from St. Kitts, but from all the Caribbean islands, I have found that they're short-sighted in the way, in the sense that many of them want to work on campus, because remember, once you get that job, you're generally not going to lose that job, and it's in your comfort zone. It's what you're used to. So I realized that, and this is what I have realized, I myself did it. I would look only on campus for my optional practical training position.
Right.
And it got to a point when I was doing my search, what I needed to do was I liaised with the career offices department. They worked up my resume. We did mock interviews and everything. And I was ready to go out and see outside job. But just for the fear of the unknown, because, I'm not American and, all these different things, I just didn't really pursue it as hard as I would pursue going to every department on campus, trying to find out if they're going to need someone. So yes, they see the success. They see it on campus because it's at home.
That's familiar.
Right. And Monroe College does a good job when it comes to making sure that they have a lot of opportunities for the graduates, the international students. And I would say, again, because of the short-sightedness, maybe just the lack of, maybe they're just fearful. They just don't, they put more into trying to find those positions on campus, which are very limited in comparison to what's out there. That's what I think.
Well, you're so funny. I'm going to add to your responsibilities now. I'm going to suggest maybe we should think about how we could create programs. Maybe it's an opportunity to create some program to encourage them. The confidence obviously is not there in pursuing opportunities off campus. Their comfort zone, like you said, is their comfort zone, and maybe a little short-sightedness. But what would you recommend?
Can I say this?
Sure.
I can say that it's only certain types of international students that are nearsighted.
Okay.
Because when we get these students from Asia and India, students from the East, they generally do not look on campus. They look outside first. That's just what I see. Mm-hmm. And then if anything doesn't work out, then they may come on campus. But for most parts, our Caribbean students are the ones dominating the part-time jobs on campus and the OPT jobs on campus. Our students from the East, and we get a lot of students because, those territories are huge, right? We get a lot of students from there, India and so forth. They go outside. They just look elsewhere. I'm not sure if it's the mindset that they're coming in where they're coming to the West and they want to have as much information as possible and they want to have all this opportunity and they're not so fearful. So maybe that's why they're more eager to go and do it. But I can definitely tell you that the nearsightedness, what I'm talking about people like myself, people that are from the smaller islands, people that are from the Caribbean. And to add to your point of you adding to my responsibilities, I'm not quite sure how much impact I can make when it comes to that, because someone found this very strange, but I didn't find it strange until they mentioned it. I do not work in the international office for student services. I do not work in international admissions. I work directly with admissions on a whole and directly with the president's office. So when it comes to how they manage and how they do certain things, of course, I can make a call and say, well, what's happening here? Or can you do something here? But in terms of the everyday duties and responsibility, I am nowhere involved. I don't even register international students for their classes. So when it comes to that, I worked with the New Yorkers, the students who are American citizens, and even now, in terms of my admissions role, they're moving me out of the international market and putting me in the local role because of the need to bring in more people to the institution. And because they need someone with my ability to connect with parents, because what I have found, even though students were born and raised here in the Bronx or in Brooklyn, many of them, their parents are from the Caribbean, or they're from Haiti, or they're from Africa. So they can relate to me, especially when I start speaking in my accent and it comes out, they can definitely say, okay, well, we like her. Let her come to us. We'll work with her, that type of stuff. So that's the energy that I've been feeling in this new post and at the college in general.
Right. So based on your thoughts about students who may need to rethink their options in terms of work. What's your recommendation? What's your final statement on that? What's your recommendation regarding looking beyond campus?
One, even in your first semester, because if you're coming for a bachelor's degree, you'll be here for about 8 semesters generally. If you're transferring in credits, it may cut down to about 4 or 5. Initially, when you come, position your mind to attend every single workshop that we have, every single career fair that we have, with the intention of, okay, I don't graduate for another year, but guess what? These are probably the same list of people that are going to be back next year when it's time for me to look a job. You can volunteer at these events. The college is always looking for people to liaise with the employers to make sure that the employers are okay. Their table is set. They don't need any assistance. They also make sure that their students work in the event. So position your mind to think. From the time I get to New York, my main thing is to attend as many workshops surrounding outside employment and attending all these career fairs where they go to the hotel or they come on campus and they interact with these employers. The reason why I would say that is because I did that. I did that because I'm always that type of person. That is why even when I worked now in my job at Monroe, I have never applied for a job. I have always been asked to take on a role. I have never asked. The only thing I did when I first came was ask about volunteer work. How can I volunteer? How can I do this? How can I do that? And it was during those events and those volunteering, I met people outside of the college. I have partnerships and networks outside. Even in your case, how did I meet you? I reached out to you to ask you if I can have students visit the UN, to have some students watch our Prime Minister make an address, because that's just the type of person I am. So I think that students have to position their mind to think, what is it that they need and how can they take small steps early? Do not wait until last minute to attend that one career fair and expect an employer to just take you up just like that. But guess what? If you would have been going to every single fair and the employers are coming back and they see you all the time, they're going to say, there's something about her. There's something about her. Let's give her a try. That's what I think.
Great advice, Kimarah. And yes, I remember when we connected and got the opportunity to see how many of our students were really moving and shaking, and obviously under your tutelage. Talking about back then, you have spent how many years working with Monroe, and what next for Kimarah?
Okay. I started working with the college officially in 2009. So since then, I've been just evolving in different positions, working from housing. If you can think about a department, I probably worked there. So when it comes to what is next, as you know, I recently completed one of the highest certification in HR. The reason why I did that is because I just love working with people, and I'm a people person. I think, again, I was born to serve. And I know that when it comes to whether it's helping students understand the nature of work, because when you leave college, your next thing is work. So I think by getting that certification, it put me in a good position to understand all the different possibilities, all the different legal ramifications, all the different things that is associated with working. So perhaps next, I would look to find another way where I can gain some type of certification in helping people, but I have not figured out okay, you love to help people so much, you love to serve so much. What is that one thing that you can do that others can't do? I know who I am and I know why people like me, but I think that just getting these certifications and sticking within that main realm of human resource, then I would probably find my way a lot more seamlessly. Because I can tell you, if I am an HR manager, and you come to me and you want a raise, I'm going to give it to you. So the boss may not like me. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I may even try to say, listen, I know you want the raise. You can't get the raise. These are what you need to do to get that raise,
Right, right.
right? Those are the type of things and those are the type of qualities that I see in myself that others see in me. So for next, I just want to keep building on that and gaining the expertise, the knowledge, and all the know how so I can do a better job. So when I find it, I can say, this is what I've been preparing for.
I am so excited hearing you talk. I'm already thinking of I know you had the YouTube series, Kim, the college advisor, but I'm thinking now you need a series probably called Kim, the life specialist, because this is good information and it's so good that to see people who want to give back, not just to our Kitisha Net Division, West Indian brethren, but just to people on a whole. I feel your passion and I'm so excited for you.
Well, I can say the other next thing that I have to do for my Kititians and Division, so I hope none of my Bahamians and students from St. Martin and so forth are hearing this, but I was able to put in place an articulation agreement with this college where I'm able to get the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and Monroe College to come together to put monies together so that way it reduces the cost for students on in terms of tuition.
Wow.
So students are able to get up to $15,000 annually if they come to New York, and they're able to get up to $3,000 annually if they were to study online. What I want to
That's
do,
huge. That's huge.
yes, and this is something that has been around for quite some time. Since I actually started, it's something that I put in place. I was so happy that the folks in power, they were able to just come on board. They saw what I wanted to do and they said, wow, this is good. I want to put something else in place that would help our students on the vocational side. So that is something that is going to be coming up in the near future. The only thing that I am working on now that I'm in the schools here in New York and I've not been, I can actually now tap in to some of my connections to see, which school, which organization am I going to reach out to, and will the current administration or the next administration be willing to partner with that to make sure that the students are able to get that help? Because this specific help is mostly on the academic side. You're talking about accounting, business, even something like health service administration, public health. These are programs that we can get funding to now, but there has to be an option for people who want to do the more hands-on stuff, people who want to do electrical, people who want to do plumbing, people who want to do even construction, right? Because these are the people that runs our society, whether we believe it or not. Like, Corinne, I know that if something goes wrong with your toilet, you cannot touch that. And whatever the plumber charge you, you're going to have to pay because you can't do it yourself.
Exactly.
And these are all jobs that makes the young people of my federation become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So that is what my short term, my next is.
Yeah.
So now that you asked me, I thought about it and I said that was something that I was thinking about. So I'm probably going to start making moves towards that.
Awesome. And that speaks to the diversity of Monroe as well. You're thinking, of course, and it translating to what Monroe offers. So kudos to you for that. And
yes.
Impressive. So we've talked about all of the, the academic side, the professional side of Kimarah, and there's a personal side which we don't ask for much on the personal side, but something fun. What is the thing that excites you, a fun fact about you that we don't talk about when we talk about your work? Something fun about Kimarah that we don't know.
Well, I talk about when I go to schools and I meet with high school students, I always talk about my daughter, letting them know I have a daughter who's going into high school. So I can definitely get some of the things their parents are saying. They watch me like, you have a daughter that? I said yes. So that is one thing I am very big on, making sure that she has an open mind. I think that is very, very personal to me. I would like when my daughter meets anyone, and I'm talking about meeting someone from a president of the college to someone as when it comes to the social status, someone who do just the minimum basic. She treats them the same exact way. She understands what is happening in the world today. So just as I keep my mind open and I read a lot and I look at different articles, I share them with her. So I think that is one of the biggest things that I try to do, because even sometimes just talking to her, I said, wow, your mind is very open and I love that. Right. And her teachers can see it and so forth. So that is very personal for me, making sure that she's very worldly and she understands and she feels good within herself as to who she is, understanding where she comes from, and all of that. The other thing is that I grew up, as I told you, selling mangoes. My father is naturally a farmer. He spends a lot of times in the hills. So we always would go to the mountains. Just recently, I stepped into the Pinneys Beach Park in Nevis. And when I got there and I got out the taxi, my daughter was with us. And I said, don't you just feel like, oh, you can just stay here? Nature, it does something to me. She said, no, it feels cool, but I don't think it affects me the way it affects you. So that is something that I try to do as well. I spend a lot of time with nature, try to go to parks and stuff like that. And I'm trying this year to get a little bit more active, so I can be, just a little bit more active, trying to do an hour maybe in the mornings before I get started with work and stuff. So those are some of the personal things that I would say that I'm working on right now.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kimarah. Every time I talk to you, I feel this buzz of energy, buzz of positive, such a positive vibe, right? And I love your confidence. And I think the students love what you provide to them. And I'm sure your president, who I met so many years ago, is quite pleased at the level of work that you put in and the results that you deliver on. So thank you, Kimarah, for just being such a great. I think you're an ambassador to the Caribbean. I can say Saint Kitts and Nevis, as I always, have on my chest or on my, heart. But I see how you have been that face and voice for our Caribbean students, and I pay such respect and homage to you, Kimarah, for working with our students and for being a bright light in the lives of our young people. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. And I always give you a chance, for a takeaway. Make a pitch at a student coming in September or spring next year, whichever you choose. Take it away with your goodbye.
Well, what I want to say, I would like to see more people apply for the scholarship. I know we have always had a lot of people, but based on the pandemic, many students have shifted to the online studies. I would love to see more people applying for scholarships to the HR department to take advantage of the study abroad opportunities as well. I would definitely like to see you guys, if you're planning on starting your studies anytime next year and Monroe College have the area of studies. I would love to look at your applications and see what I can do in terms of offering scholarships. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis is very, very flexible. They do have areas of interest. For example, they're always looking for people who wanting to do education, anything in health, anything anything in like fighting crime. These are some of the areas that you want to start thinking about pursuing careers in. And I think overall, if you were to apply for any of those programs and Monroe College has it, I will be happy to assist you. I would be happy to assist anyone. But I'm just saying, we have so many people doing business. And I always say to students, honestly, that they do business as a default, right? They do business because they don't truly know what they want to do. So, my closing statement is think about what aspect of business you would like to make an impact on, what industry you would like to go into before you decide to apply for school. Because at the end of the day, the employers are going to be looking at, and obviously my HR certification is coming in now. They are looking for people who have specific skills, specialized skills to make an impact and take their company or organization to a next level. General business, you learn that in every aspect of every industry. So you really need to sit and think about what aspect of the company, what aspect of the industry you'll be able to make an impact, what you find most passionate, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy in a job that you do not love. I can tell you, my daughter can tell you, I work so much because I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm helping out someone. Even if I was not working for Monroe College, I will be happy to do this for any other institution because I feel like I'm helping my people. So, with that, I am going to close.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimarah, for your honesty, your openness, and your advice. We are thankful for you and for your service to our country, to others, to the world. Thanks so much for joining us on Platform and Possibilities, and look out for us to have you come back.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, Ms. Fitz.
Thanks so much, Kimarah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.